Good morning everyone, I'm Chris and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Okay, so you've already seen the repair on the red plexi head, which was in a separate video, but this is the other amplifier that was dropped in by the father and son combo. This is an amp built by Vyse amps. It's a Vibrochamp clone, and it was built, here's the paperwork that came with it, September 2020. So we're looking at, this is three and a half years old. And it's come in for a couple of issues. The most interesting, I suppose to say, is that he started to getting electric shocks off the on-off switch, which of course is no good. I think he said, I'm just going to check my notes. Oh yeah, he's electric shocks off the on-off switch and anything grounded. But also, he said there's an ugly distortion on low notes. So there's clearly something not right with this amplifier, and he's done the right thing by bringing it in for service. So, as we've seen with a lot of Vyse and Taurus amps, you get some nice bits of paperwork with it that show you all about how it works, what goes on, safety information, chassis layout. You get schematic, transformer wiring, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you get quite a lot of information with it. But let's give this thing a quick check over. So these were, or still are, I think, quite affordable for what they are. So let's go for the jugular. I've immediately noticed that these switches are loose. And what about the pots and knobs? The knobs feel okay. Input sockets feel okay. Let's spin it around. So he's got all his information on the back, what fuse it takes, the serial number 397 that matches the paperwork. Okay, we've got fuse, speaker, foot switch socket there, probably for the tremolo on and off. It's got a Jensen speaker inside, and it looks to be a rugged but usable handmade cabinet. So I'm not going to tell you what he paid for this amplifier, but I think the condition of it is appropriate for the price. I think that's a fair way to put it. Anyway, so obviously with an amplifier that's giving people electric shocks, two things it could be, right? Okay, so first thing is that, yeah, there's either mains or DC voltage on these metal components, which means there's a failure of the earthing circuit inside. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe he's got to build up a static, and that static is jumping from him to the amplifier. So we have to keep that in mind as well. But obviously, every time a customer thinks they get an electric shock from an amplifier, don't use it, don't play it, take it straight to a tech for inspection, which is what he's done. So we're going to pull the chassis out. There's no point in me plugging this in case there is something going on here. I don't want to get shocked, but I want to pull the chassis, and then I want to give it a good visual inspection before I even apply mains power to this unit. Okay, with the chassis removed and just got up some blocks of wood, you can get a good look inside at what's going on. So it's a typical black panel style Vibrochamp build. He's got an eyelet board with all the components on. Apart from a multi-section can capacitor, he's got a filter stack here, which is a good thing to do. Certainly makes it easier for servicing in the future. 2 preamp valves, a 6V6, and this one, instead of a 5Y3, is running a GZ34. So this one's running at higher voltage internally. So he's got the audio grounds to a lug here, And he's got his power grounds over here, separate safety earth bond, which is a good thing. Transformer looks to be well secured. But I'm just looking through this, and there's a couple of things I don't like. First thing is the amount of varnishing on the sockets here. I mean, for an amp that's only 3.5 years old, they're in terrible condition. I don't know what's going on there. So there is that. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got a screen stopper, 1K screen stopper on the output valve, but no grid stopper. Very interesting. Unless it's on the board somewhere, we'll have to investigate that. The only but here's the main thing I've noticed is that every single one of these chassis holes has got these weird marks on every single. Look. What is it? That can't be right, can it? Something's not right there. I've never seen that before. That is bizarre. Up here as well. There. There and there. What is that? Has anyone seen that before? That is bizarre. We need to do some further investigation because that's not right. Okay, so definitely not plugging this in until I've done further investigation now. Because, yeah, that's... Until I understand what causes that... Look, these little... It's like a star pattern coming out from each hole, isn't it? Very bizarre. Something's not right. But even there, from where the socket mounts, it's doing it as well. So the other thing was, do you remember I said the switches were loose? Well, it's even worse inside. So we'll have to snug those up. What I might do is put a shim washer underneath there, and then I can tighten those up further without risk scratching the plate. But this amplifier's got far worse issues than a loose on-off switch. Right, so I've been so busy with repairs this week and last week as well. I really haven't spent enough time on the builds. So I've made the decision today to put some of the repairs aside just for the moment, because I do need to crack on and get some of the build work done. So I'm doing a couple of boards. First one I'm doing, this is an AZ Lister board. So obviously I've cut out the FR4 material, drilled, put the eyelets in place, swaged those in, and now I'm starting to populate it with components from my drawing. I've got to do this, and then I've got what have I got? Got a Dexter to do. Got a couple of Dexters actually, and then some more PRs. I think there's another Ainsley as well that I could get done, but I am waiting on delivering more board material, so I'm just trying to get as much done as I can whenever I get a spare 5. But I can't do this for too long because I do need to get back on the repairs. I have got some big jobs on, so yeah, just kind of balancing it out really. Right, so I've gone over the Vyse. I've tightened up the input and output sockets, the on and off and standby switches, the nuts on those, and I've put some shim washers on as well. I've gone through the amp. It's fine. It's running great. I can show you on the oscilloscope. We get a lovely sine wave. He says it should be 4 watts into 8 ohms. So 4 watts, between 5.5 and 6 volts AC will give us some in that range. So where do you want to call it? Roughly, I mean, that's definitely clipping, so we'll back it off. 3.84. what have I done there? 4 volts. It's about 2 watts. So maybe it is down a little bit. It was doing more than that a minute ago. Wait. Yes, but it is a little bit down on power actually. Anyway, I've done some bias measurements. It's got a 470 ohm cathode resistor for the single 6v6. Here's the measurements. In the manual it says about 35 milliamps cathode current, which is there. This is running at 36, but we're only at 63% of max, and usually you run at 100%. So is that why we're slightly down on power? But anyway, apart from that, it is running and it is working. There is some slight hum from it, but I don't see anything too out of the ordinary. And there's certainly nothing, all the grounding's good. There's certainly no reason why you get an electric shock from this amplifier just by touching the chassis. So maybe it's an issue with his power cable or something at home, but at the moment, from a safety point of view, I see no issue with this amplifier, but we'll keep testing. Anyway, I've just had a pair of Marshall 1987X's, the 18 watt combos, dropped into me. These are both owned by one customer. He has decided that he's going to keep one of them and sell the other. The one that he's selling, however, has a... Is it this one? No, this is the one he's keeping, because it's got this little cut. The one he's keeping's got the cutout. That's not the reason he's keeping it. The one he's selling, however, has the Dr. Z brake light attenuator in the back. So he wants me to swap it into the amp he's keeping, return all the wiring on the one he's selling to stock, make it look factory, and then he can sell that one and keep his preferred one. He said the one he wants to keep is a little bit softer and the overdrive's a bit nicer, where the other one has a bit more headroom and is a bit more powerful. And he's not sure why that is. So we might use this opportunity to compare the two, you know, check bias and things like that. But yeah, that's what we're doing. So swap the attenuator from one amp to the other, tidy it up, make it look good. Quick safety check while it's in, and then he can have these back. Right, so the Dr. Z brake light attenuator is now removed from the 18 watter that he's going to sell. It's quite a simple unit. You've got the end that connects to the amplifier that comes in. You've got two resistors inside. They're both 25 watt resistors. One of them is 50 ohms, the other is 25, but the 50 ohm has various taps alongside it. And here's the output here. And using this switch on the front, you can select 4 different settings, one being minimum amount of attenuation, 4 being the most. And that gives you a combination of both resistors or the resistor and a certain tap along there. So some of the signal gets sent to the resistors, the rest gets sent on to your speaker. So pretty simple design, but it does work quite well. The only thing I'm not happy with is obviously someone's either tried to extend or repair this cable before. Not very happy with that. I don't like them. So I am tempted to unsolder from inside, make a whole new cable that we can then wire in. It just looks nicer that way, I think. So that's what I'm going to do. Right, so new cable made up and heat shrinked and soldered in. All good, ready to install in the amplifier. That's a much nicer solution than what was on there previously. Right, so what I've decided to do is mount it on this side of the cabinet rather than the opposite side as it was in the other amp. It means that I don't have to extend the speaker cable from this speaker. I can just rotate it and run it better. Then it also means, because the jack socket, on the chassis is on this side as well, I won't need to have a cable running across the cabinet and up to it. I can just P-clip this in place into here. Could even use that screw point there, and then that can straight into the speaker socket there. So that's a nicer solution, I think. Also means you can reach in with your right hand and adjust the attenuator. It's a nicer solution, I think. Anyway, let's crack on. And that's it, install done. So I did use a P-clip on that screw up there, just hold the cable in place. That's routed it quite nicely. So that's nice and accessible, nothing in the way. Still got access to the mains IEC socket and the foot switch socket over here. So that's, yeah, nice neat job that, really happy. Good hour. Whilst that's been going on, the Vyse is still burning in on the bench. There's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely fine. No shorts, there's no voltage on the chassis. It's not causing any issues. I suspect that either he's got a fault with the grounding at home, or with the mains cable he used, or in fact he gave the amplifier itself a static shock. So either way, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this amp. So, but at least we got it checked over. I've gone through it, I've checked things out. Happy to give it back to him, safe in the knowledge that it's good to use. Right, so I'm just having a quick flick through an old copy of Guitarist magazine. This one is from July 2014. So this is from around the time where Riff was only 1 year old at that point. So quite a long time ago now. Feels like yesterday. Just having a flick through, some really interesting things in it. First of all, I don't remember the 68 custom range coming out that far back. I thought it was a much more recent thing, but no, these things have been out for 10 years now. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, I was just looking through, just having a read through. They always say what else you can get, and then look, for 1599 you could have got a Tone King Imperial in 2014. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, were they ever that cheap? But turns out they were. I've just looked up what you can buy them for now. A brand new one at Peach Guitars, 2799. I still think that's a really good price for how fantastic those amplifiers are. But 10 years ago, I would have snapped your hand off to buy one for 1600 quid. That's amazing. Anyway, yeah. I suppose that's inflation for you. But this is a cracking magazine, 10 years ago. I mean, look, the old Anderton's logo. I bet some of you have got even older versions of this mag. But anyway, there's a great article in here. I'll try and find it. All about pedal boards by none other than our friend of the channel, Dan Steinhardt. Look, isn't that brilliant? Right, so I've just finished off the HEADFIRST mods to this Marshall Origin 50. I've just done the basic mods. I haven't done the Jose clipping yet. I'm going to give it back to the customer. He can try it, and then if he wants to bring it back for those extra mods, we can do that. But it was more important we got the basic mods working first, and get the amp up and running, make sure there's no underlying issues. So that's what we've done. I'm going to run the loop through it just and give you a run through. SM57 on the cab again, still waiting on the mic stand. So we'll start the loop off. We'll have the gain on 2. I've got all the EQs straight up, presence on 2. enough of that then. Right, so there you go, Origin 50. Reason I use a loop is simply that it's just a known constant. It removes any other variable. So when I'm testing, I know I get the same input, the same loop, from the same guitar player at the same time, especially when I'm developing amps. It's really useful to have that. And I've got loads of loops that both Ainsley and Danish Pete did for me. Obviously, I do test the amps myself on my own guitar, but the loop just allows me to have a good reference point for testing all the amplifiers, and then I can just focus, especially when I'm tweaking and adjusting. I can leave that going and just work on the amplifier. So yeah. Anyway, that Origin 50 sounds like a really good hot-rodded Marshall, which I guess is the point. So we can button it back into its cabinet and the customer can have it back for testing. Right, so I'm just finishing off the Ainsley board that I showed you earlier. And I'm just getting to the end of this Dexter board. Got so many filter caps on it. But there you go, that's the Dexter board nearly done. Now today is Thursday and I've actually got to close the workshop. It's closed tomorrow, Friday, because do you remember back in the late autumn, the farm over the road had that big fire, and we were all stuck here because they closed the road. Well, the landlord here has decided to go through every single building and make sure that there's no issues, and that all the fire safety certificates and risk assessments are up to date, etc, etc. So the electrician came round, looked around this place. This is the old chicken shed for the farm. I should say that the units here on this farm, they're not all brand new. They are, older units, and the rent that you pay reflects that. So, they're not in perfect condition. They're old. Anyway, this is the old chicken shed. And the electrician came in, checked everything out, and found that the lighting circuit was horrendous, absolutely abysmal. So he couldn't sign off the building. So he's having to rewire it, and it's going to take him a whole day. So I've got to close tomorrow, Friday, while that's done, which means I've got to come in on Saturday to catch up all the work that I'm going to miss out tomorrow. So anyway, yeah, that's it's quite frustrating actually, because I had a lot of customers that wanted to come in on Friday to pick stuff up, drop stuff off. Thankfully, we can do it on Saturday, so it's not the end of the world. Anyway, I'm just finishing off this board, and then the Origin 50 has already been collected, and I've got to crack on with. Do you remember that twin reverb from December? Well, I spoke to a customer yesterday, got the reverb working on it now. I've now got. I haven't shown you any of this, but I will. I've got good output on both channels now. It's just that the amp, it's got a lot of miles on it. It's a bit hissly, a bit crackly, a bit poppy. And I said to him on the phone last night, how far do you want me to take it? Do you, because it's, the more I spend on it, the bigger the bill's going to be. So you need to decide at what point you're happy with that amplifier. So we've agreed the work that I'm going to do to it, or how much extra I'm going to do to it. And then he's going to come and try it, and if he's happy with it, he'll take it away. If he wants me to keep going on it, he will. So that's the plan for that. But I do need to crack on. But yeah, just finishing off these boards, making good progress. Okay, so on Wednesday's repair video, the Red Plexi, I had a really good question in the comments from, I believe it's Andy, who wanted to know what I mean by soak testing, load test, soak test, and also heat cycling. It's a phrase I use quite often, and he wants to know what I mean by that. So, soak test is when you run the amplifier on the test bench, flat out, into a dummy load, measuring it on an oscilloscope, measuring the output. And it's not just for taking measurements of the amplifier, it's a stress test. And the point of it is to try and make the amplifier fail, or to find any weak points. whether it's a resistor or a capacitor, a valve, transformer, anything like that, because if this amplifier is going to fail, I want it to fail on this bench and not once the customer's taken it. Okay, so a soak test for a repair will usually be a couple of hours, and if it passes that soak test, that stress test, it's usually good to go. On a brand new build, however, these things get burnt in, or soak test, whatever you want to call them, for 24 to 48 hours. And we actually do that in stages. So it might get 6 hours running flat out. It's then switched off, allowed to cool completely, usually overnight. And then turned on the next day, stress tested again, all day, rinse and repeat. And that does a number of things. It allows components to settle and to bed in or break in, whatever phrase you want to use. Again, we're stress testing, trying to find weak points. But if it passes all of that, and the heat cycling puts more stress on everything than just running it flat out for a period of time, then I know the amplifier is good to go. So that's the whole point of it, really, is just to, if there are any weak points in the amplifier, I want to find them on the bench and not get a phone call from the customer a week down the line saying something's not quite right. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, comments down below, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and I shall catch you all next week.